It was one of those nights when the cold seemed to carry sorrow in the air, when every gust of wind felt like it whispered loneliness. Snow drifted gently under the dim glow of the streetlights, coating the sidewalks in silence. And there, on the corner of an empty street, sat a girl no older than 16, her arms wrapped tightly around her swollen belly, her eyes hollow with fear. She looked like a child herself, abandoned in a world that had turned its back on her. And then came Daniel. Daniel was a single father, though he still stumbled over the weight of that title. Only 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife, his partner, his anchor, to an illness they couldn't afford to fight. He was left alone with a 6-year-old daughter, Lily, and a heart that carried both love and exhaustion in equal measure. He worked 2 jobs, often coming home with blistered hands and aching feet, but his smile never faltered in front of Lily. Still, behind closed doors, he knew the weight of struggle. Bills piled up like unwelcome guests, and the refrigerator was often emptier than he wanted to admit. That night, as Daniel walked home from his late shift at the mechanic's shop, his breath forming clouds in the frozen air, he noticed her, this trembling teenager sitting alone on the curb. Her lips were blue, her clothes too thin for the weather. But it wasn't just her condition that caught him, it was her eyes. Eyes that carried the same kind of grief he once saw in the mirror after his wife passed. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her. The girl flinched, clutching her belly tighter, as though she expected him to hurt her. Daniel held up his hands. "It's all right. I won't harm you. My name's Daniel." Do you have anywhere to go?" She shook her head, tears brimming. "They kicked me out. My parents said they don't want me anymore." Her voice cracked, the kind of sound that came from someone breaking inside. Daniel's heart clenched. He thought of Lily, sleeping in their small apartment just a few blocks away. He thought of the way his wife used to tell him, "Kindness doesn't cost us a thing, but it can save someone everything." "Come on," he said softly, offering his hand. "You can't stay out here in the cold. At least come have some food, get warm. I have a daughter about your age when she was little. You'll be safe." For a moment, the girl hesitated. But then, shivering, she placed her trembling hand in his. And just like that, 2 broken lives found their first thread of connection. Before we go deeper into this story, if you're new here on Whispers of Kindness, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Every little engagement helps us bring you more real, emotional, and inspiring stories. When they arrived at Daniel's apartment, it was nothing extravagant. Peeling wallpaper, a couch that had seen better days, and a heater that rattled when it worked. But to the girl, it felt like heaven. Lily peeked out from her bedroom, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Daddy, who's that?" she asked, curiosity glowing in her small voice. Daniel knelt to his daughter's height. "This is a friend. Her name is Emily. She needs a safe place tonight. Can we share our home?" Lily smiled shyly, then, without hesitation, offered Emily her stuffed bunny. "This helps me when I'm scared. Maybe it'll help you too." Emily broke down crying then, holding the toy to her chest. For the first time that night, she let herself feel safe. Days turned into weeks. Emily stayed, though Daniel never pressured her to explain much. He knew enough that she had been abandoned by those meant to protect her, that she carried both a baby and unbearable loneliness, and that she had nowhere else to turn. Daniel made space for her, even when space was scarce. He cooked extra portions, though it meant stretching their meals thinner. He took on overtime hours, sometimes coming home with grease on his face and exhaustion in his bones, just to make sure the small apartment stayed afloat. Emily, too, began to help. She cleaned, cooked when she could, and even watched Lily when Daniel worked late. Slowly, she became part of their little family. Not because Daniel forced it, but because kindness stitched them together. But hardship wasn't far behind. When Emily went into labor one stormy night, Daniel drove her to the hospital in his old, coughing car. He held her hand through every cry, every wave of pain, whispering words of comfort he once gave his wife. Hours later, when the baby's first cries echoed through the hospital room, Emily looked at Daniel with tears streaming down her face. Will you be the godfather?" she whispered. Daniel, holding the tiny newborn, felt his heart swell in a way he hadn't in years. "Of course," he said. "This little one's family now." The months that followed weren't easy. Emily juggled motherhood as a teenager, and Daniel supported her the best he could. There were judgmental stares from neighbors, harsh whispers at the grocery store. But none of that mattered inside their little apartment, where laughter, lullabies, and bedtime stories filled the air. Years passed like pages in a book. Lily grew taller, her hair brushing her shoulders, and Emily blossomed from a frightened teen into a determined young woman. She studied at night while the baby slept, working part-time jobs to help Daniel. He watched with pride as she earned her GED, then pursued nursing school. There were times Daniel almost gave up, times when bills threatened to crush them, when his health began to falter, when the weight of responsibility seemed too much for one man. But Emily was always there, not as a burden, but as a blessing. She encouraged him, reminded him of his strength, and cared for Lily like a sister. Then came the miracle. Daniel had developed a heart condition, one that threatened his life if untreated. But treatment was costly, far beyond what he could afford. He hid his worry, not wanting to scare Lily or Emily. But Emily found out. She always noticed the things he tried to conceal. She was 21 by then, a nurse in training, with a job that barely covered her bills. But she refused to let the man who saved her die because of money. Quietly, she organized community fundraisers, reached out to charities, and even stood in front of crowds sharing her story. How a struggling single dad once took in a pregnant, abandoned teen and gave her a home. The story touched hearts everywhere. Donations poured in. Strangers wept and reached into their pockets, moved by the reminder that kindness, even in small apartments with rattling heaters, could create miracles. Daniel's surgery was paid in full. Months later, as he recovered, Emily sat beside him with her child, now a bright, curious 5-year-old, and Lily, now a teenager, sitting close. She held Daniel's weathered hand and whispered, "You saved me when I had no one, and now it's my turn to save you. You're not just my godfather, you're my dad too." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry, not out of sorrow, but out of gratitude. He had taken in a broken girl one winter night, never imagining she would one day become his miracle. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Whispers of Kindness, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Your engagement helps us spread more stories of love, resilience, and the power of kindness. Life rarely turns out the way we expect. Sometimes it breaks us, sometimes it tests us, but sometimes it gives us unexpected family, unexpected love, and unexpected miracles. Daniel never thought saving a frightened teenager would one day save him in return. And Emily never thought the man who opened his door on a freezing night would become the father she always needed. It's proof of one simple truth. When we open our hearts to others, we often discover the miracles that were waiting for us all along.